Hi, Ken Coscia here. In today's video lesson, I want to share with you, teach you some tips, if you will, on how to not only awaken to trust and to develop your intuition far more effectively so that you can make better, wiser decisions in all that you do. It can be a game changer. So first step, I would say, before we take a deep dive into this, is that, let's face it, we all have intuition. We all have what some used to call ESP. It's our birthright. And it's a trainable skill. Obviously, for some people, it seems to be more awakened than others. Sure, some people it's more developed naturally, some through practice. But you and I, each of us, can develop this as a skill set. And it's simply, keeping it simple, an ability that somehow, some way you and I have to get information that goes beyond our physical five senses, that goes beyond logic, that goes beyond reasoning, that somehow, some way, what's called unexplainable phenomenon, we come to understand something, we come to know something, and it can be focused. So that being said, in all the decades, I've been doing this work since 1971, the Silva Method. I serve as the lead instructor, the training director. In fact, I'm the guy that Jose Silva in 1984 selected out of 1,000 global instructors to teach globally advanced Silva training for the Silva Method, advanced programs to help develop our team of instructors. It was such an honor, such a blessing. At the time, there were only 4 people in the world. Mr. Silva was one of them, and I became one of them. And it was so fantastic. To this day, I feel such gratitude because I learned so much. And one of them is, a big mistake that many people make in our classes is they compare to others. And the fact remains that each of us has a dominant communication style. So stop comparing and embrace who you are, where you flow, what comes most naturally. So if we were studying language, in a very basic, simple way, communications, we know that some people, each of us in fact, has a dominant style. Some people are more visual, and they relate to life, they express themselves more visually. And you'll hear them say something like, "I see what you mean. It's as clear as that blue sky." Other people are more auditory in their expression. And you'll hear them say, "I hear you loud and clear. It's as loud as that bell." Some people in their expression are more kinesthetic. And you'll hear people like that saying, "Whoa, baby, you feel the energy in the room? Do you feel those vibes?" Or they'll say, "I don't know, my gut, my stomach's turning, or I'm just getting this strange, uncomfortable feeling in the body." Others have more of a sense of knowing. And you'll hear them say, "I'm not sure why. I can't even explain it, but I just know." We sometimes call that, instinct. Interestingly enough, in the field of parapsychology many decades ago, when working with studies on ESP and this unexplainable phenomenon, which frankly I prefer to call intuition, because there's a lot of myths about ESP. There's a lot of misguided information about it. So we know, fact remains, that when people are getting an intuitive insight, an inner wisdom, it's kind of like your inner Google visually, and they're getting mental pictures, images, it's been defined as clairvoyance. Comes from the French, and it very simply means clear vision. When people are getting insights beyond their 5 senses, an idea, an inspiration, auditorily, like hearing a voice, it's called clairaudience. When people are getting a feeling, a sense about something, a temperature change in their body, a feeling in their hands, a feeling in their gut, it's called clairsentience. And there's a 4th type called claircognizance. When somebody is a claircognizant, it simply means they'll say, and you've probably done this, "I just know." It's a sense of knowing. It's an awareness, an expanding awareness. And it's hard to even put into words as to the how and the why. When you embrace who you are, where you're in flow, that in itself will allow you to access more naturally, more easily your intuition. Why? Because if we compare to others, big mistake in anything, and we say, oh, how come he can do it, she can do this, she's so amazing, but not me, then we're shaming ourselves. And that adds what? Distress. And if we do that often enough, the body gets flooded with the stress hormones, and we go into survival mode, stress mode. And the number one reason why people do not get what they want, you could also say it's the number one reason why people are blocking access to their intuitive wisdom that's so natural, is because they're in stress mode. So the message is embrace what comes easiest for you. Recognize that. And by the way, I'm with you. It's very easy to suggest that. When I first went through the Silva training in 1971 in Brooklyn, New York, and people in the room, one in particular, was so visual. I said, whoa, I would have been happy if I had a little picture. And they were so vividly visual and had all this color. Slowly but surely I began to recognize you can't force it. You can train it, you can develop it, and after all these decades, it's far better for me. Still, though, I find my dominant sense is claircognizance and clairsentience. And trusting that, relying on that, it has served me so well. Now, let's go a little bit deeper into this. Recognizing who you are, your place in the universe, so to speak, there are distortions, if you will. It can be a slippery slope. There can be interference, if you will, that blocks us from having pure intuition that can guide us, wisdom that's reliable, that we can trust. So meaning, we have filters. It's called the reticular activating, or RAS system, and hence the expression, you see what you want to see, you hear what you want to hear, you feel what you want to feel, based on your point of view. So that's one of the benefits of when people come back and review the Silva training. When you go through the Silva immersion, you pay once and you come back virtually for free. You pay a pittance, a small fraction seat charge. And people experience it totally different, because as we grow, as we learn, we begin to experience and see things differently. We process differently. And that helps us to what? Evolve and gain greater awareness, greater self-awareness. So these filters influence us, cause bias, if you will. And one of the most common biases, wishful thinking or projection. We project our feelings, our hopes, our aspirations, what we really want. People run to the racetrack, they run to the casino, they buy lottery tickets. Yes, this is my day. It's not so funny. People have lost a fortune if they're not careful. So that can be a bias. Sometimes our emotions, which are very powerful, get in the way because we want something so much, so deeply, so passionately, that it can cloud our judgment as far as what's an intuitive guidance, the truth. So you've got to be like a reporter, a true journalist, where you're just observing the facts. You're just observing what you're experiencing. You're just observing the vision, the feeling, the auditory message, with no bias, no analysis, if you will. And that takes training. And with the right training, you can do that. Another possible bias is within the domain of our experience. We see this now. There is so much more openness to these ideas, to source, that we're all a part of source, that we all have intuitive ability, than when I started in 1971. Back then, the Silva Method was investigated by you name it. There were over 500 articles, globally speaking, about exposés about the Silva Method. By the way, it was great for us because the journalists went through the class and reported their experience, which was awesome. And it gave us a lot of what? Free press. Very positive press with respect to that. However, people are so much, it's one of the joys of my life now. I wish Mr. Silva were alive. There's so much neuroscience, there's so much research on meditation, there's so much more openness. I think that's great, and there has definitely been a big shift in the consciousness on this planet. It's like the old models are breaking down and new models recognizing what's really helpful, what's serving us, what's not. So it's important that you recognize we all need to be careful about these biases. Another bias could be fear. If there's some fear-mongering going on and we buy into it and we don't recognize it and we don't have the truth, we develop superstitions, we develop myths. And we are the sum total of our thoughts, and our belief systems are very powerful. What we believe to be true, even though it's not true for anybody else, can become true for us. In fact, research has shown in epigenetics that our beliefs are so powerful that what we used to think was a placebo is actually the brain and the body chemistry changing to match the belief. It's another whole topic. So my friends, we need to be, another step, embrace who we are, embrace what comes naturally, the communication style, and then learn what's the difference that makes the difference. Which brings me to the next tip. It takes practice, it takes training, it takes development. So once we have that awareness and the interest, it's important to have a purpose. Why in the world do you want to awaken your intuition? How will it serve you? What are the decisions that are important to you in your life? From simple decisions like picking a vacation spot to a decision of what road to travel on to get to your destination, what job is best for you. You have a long list of clients, calls to make if you're in sales. Being able to prioritize who's ready, open to what you have to offer. Top performing salespeople, top performing athletes have a highly awakened state of intuition. You watch some people, whether it be in soccer, whether it be in basketball, whatever it might be, the top-notch players have an uncanny knack of a sense of just anticipating where the ball will be. And they're there as if waiting. It's wonderful. It's like magic to watch. And it just doesn't happen. It takes practice. These top performers are usually the very first to show up for practice early and the last to leave. So it's not just poof, it happens, and it's not a quick fix. So part of that is have a purpose. Excuse me. How will this serve you? What kind of decisions? And the more you have an interest, the more you'll awaken it. Then be playful. If we get stressed, I got to do it. That doesn't work. Distress, being in stress mode, is the number one reason why people are not getting what they want. It's also the number one reason why people are blocked to gaining clear access to their intuition, let alone the higher thinking functions of the brain. So being playful, having a sense of detachment, not being attached to the outcome, also helps, where you're just observing and reporting and not saying, I have to be accurate. I want to impress my friends. I see this. I've worked with hundreds of thousands of people in the Silva classes. I love it. It never gets old. And one of the things that's interesting, when people go into the intuition games that we play, in the mindset of ego, I got to show them how psychic I am, and concerned about not wanting to make a fool of themselves, they don't do so hot. They're not so accurate. When we succeed, and this is part of my job, coaching you through the class, of being detached and saying, hey, I feel like I'm making it up. I don't know. Maybe I can do it, maybe I can't. I'm just going to do my best. Then it works. And when they have a sense of purpose of wanting to do some good, wanting to figure something out, even more so. Other thing, we want, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, be in a relaxed state. So whether it be enjoying nature, going for a walk, dancing, things that help you to relax, meditation. Have you noticed throughout the ages, meditators, although they may not be talking about intuition, they read the room, they're very naturally intuitive, they have this uncanny sense. It's the most natural way to awaken this, because when we're meditating, we're releasing, we're getting rid of the hormones, the stress hormones, and getting ourselves into a centered state, getting the brain and the heart into a coherent state. And when that happens, we more naturally access our intuition. You get the idea? So, my friends, be patient with yourself also. Give yourself the chance, the opportunity, and recognize that with the right training, you can develop this. The last aspect is interpretation. As far as I'm concerned, nobody is 100%. There are people who'd like us to believe that. Yes, I know some people are highly developed, highly skilled, yes, and they kind of beat the law of averages. However, nobody is 100% of the time 100% accurate, in my humble opinion, and that's what I've observed. Interpretation, because there are biases. And the only way to get over that and to improve is through deliberate practice. If you look at the studies throughout time on high performance, on peak performance, deliberate practice simply means you apply something, you implement, and you get immediate feedback. And with that feedback, you begin to assess what's working, what's not working. And you begin to recognize patterns of your thought, feeling, whatever it might be, and you begin to learn the distinctions between when you're accurate, when you're not. So another example of that might be, let's just take a look. I want to give you some insight for this. I hope one day you explore the Silva Method training. It's great. And one of the reasons why is, for example, it's 4 days, 40 hours of training. And one of the other blockers, if somebody is in physical pain because of an accident, an injury, or for whatever reason, that becomes a distortion, so to speak, because you're preoccupied with the pain. And that's why in day 1 and day 2, you learn, we teach you, we actually work on releasing that pain, getting over it, healing it, if you will. And right from day 1, people report, I've witnessed 10% reduction in the pain, sometimes more, 50% or more. No promises, but certainly by the time we get to day 3, there's a substantial reduction in the pain in the body, which helps them to think more clearly, which helps them to access more easily their intuition. Similarly with sleeping, not sleeping at night, having trouble getting back to sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep or not sleeping properly, that's a very common lending to distortions of intuition, because we have brain fog. We have trouble concentrating, thinking. If we do meditate, we just crash, fall asleep. So in day 1, we teach techniques to help people get to sleep easily, stay asleep, get back to sleep, and retrain, rewire the brain to have healthy, normal, natural, rhythmic cycles of sleep. Right in day 1. And as we move through, people report after day 1, day 2, improvement there. You get the idea? So it's like clearing a path to your higher self. That sometimes our body gets in the way because of the pain, the discomfort, the lack of sleep, the flooding of stress hormones. And that's why it's brilliant. Mr. Silva put together a brilliant piece of work in that from day 1 to day 2 to day 3, day 4, we're clearing that path. And by the time we get to day 3, we play games with intuition. Let me teach you one right here. Thank you for watching. If you're still watching, here's a little bonus for you. More than 10 years ago, I introduced this in my classes into the organization. As training director, I recommend my fellow instructors to do this. And that is, in the very beginning of day 3, the morning, the game we play doesn't take long, maybe about 5 minutes or so, certainly less than 10. People pair off in teams of 2 with somebody they don't know. Now, you may know their name, a little bit about them, but somebody who you didn't come to the class with, you know very little about. And you're just sitting in front of that person with your eyes wide open with an intention to tune into this person, a desire to tune in with this person, to understand them better, to understand their likes, dislikes. I give 2 minutes for this. And then I tell them, just write down First thoughts, you may feel like you're making it up. That's a good sign. You may feel like it's just a hunch, a thought. You might even wonder, where's this coming from? It may seem silly. And then 2 minutes are up. Now you can talk. So in that time, no talking, no discussion. Now you can discuss, and you tell your partner, this is what I thought about you. This is what came to my mind. This is what I was thinking. Yes. No. And then when you compare the yeses and the nos, when you're accurate, when you weren't, that's a point of reference. That's feedback, and you begin to recognize patterns. And we do that all through the day. Games like that, similar to that, where you get feedback. It's awesome. Some people report, oh my God, it's like they've known me my life. How could they get that information? They describe my mom, they describe the situation as if they were there. And you have this ability too. It's just a matter of being aware of it, having the right training, practicing, and applying yourself. By the time we get to day 4, we then practice day 4 with what we call mental projection exercises to fine-tune these communication styles and to recognize what comes best for us, where we're in a flow, so that by the time we get to day 4 and we worked on using our intuition to be on purpose in our lives, to understand ourselves better, we then divide into teams of 2 again, and we have a breakout session for 3 hours. And in those 3 hours, people are asked to bring to the practice session some real existing problems, situations that, for example, I know, but you know nothing about. You're asked then to enter your alpha level. So, for example, we find that this alpha and theta brainwave state is a super learning state. You learn faster, easier. Young children prior to puberty are naturally in this state. And all the brain science shows that. And they're like sponges, they just absorb. And that's how we get these results. We use dynamic meditation to get you into that state. And that's how we're clearing the path to the higher self and exploring the field and exploring the possibilities of what you can do to take command of your life so that you navigate life with more grace, more ease. So here we are now, kind of wrapping up the conclusion of the coursework, and you're asked to then enter your alpha state, change your brainwaves, meditative state, we call it the laboratory level, and it's now called medical intuition, to, in a sense, diagnose, come up with facts about this person. There's no way you could know. It's not even in the domain of your life experience. And the person saying, yes, how could you know that? Yes. Then other times, no, that's not so. I have no information. But you begin again to recognize the distinctions. Again, we call them points of reference. We do that at least 10 times. And by the time we finish the class, it's a highlight. There's a shift in the consciousness. You can feel it, the energy, it's palpable, the high. People are elated. They have such a high level of confidence that everything we did prior seems elementary. And with that courage, we're more likely then to apply it in our lives, to implement. And then we get some more competence because we're practicing apply. And that gives us even more courage. And we apply some more. So what I'm saying is it's not a quick fix. You're step by step learning, applying, getting some feedback, having some more courage, some more confidence, and then applying some more and expanding. So just imagine the possibilities for you. When you get to this point of having a high level of confidence, of knowing when you're correct, when you're not, what to trust, what not to trust, imagine what you can do. The decisions you make every day of your life, from picking a vacation spot, from picking a contractor who's going to deliver the goods and really do the job in the right way, what needs to be done in your home, in your office, in hiring somebody, or in finding the right employment or business, or who to trust if you're going to hire a coach or someone, a course, how to get through the stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there, I'll put it that way. And there's also a lot of the real deal, authenticity. It can be challenging sometimes to filter through that. So my friends, I hope you find this helpful. There's so much more. I would love to see you in a class with me. It'd be great. If you find this helpful, share it with others. Whether you take the class, share it with others. It's that important. And if you'd like to be updated whenever there's a new video that I'm releasing, subscribe if you're not already a subscriber to my YouTube channel. Thank you kindly for watching. I look forward to one day meeting you